When I turned 18, I had to choose one of Alpha Theron Crescent's sons as my companion in my past life. I chose Cain. It was a terrible mistake. He tore me to pieces. This time, I chose Casey, that cold-blooded, ruthless guy, to my surprise. Cain also came back. I had just walked out of City Hall and across the training field when I found him. Cain was fighting off a pack of wolves surrounded by them. A flash of silver light. His curved blade slid and struck the ground sharply. With a thud, it landed 3 feet away from my boot. Without even raising his head, he shouted sternly, "Pick it up." The wolves froze, their eyes fixed on me, waiting to see what would happen. I know this trick. In my past life, he treated me like his servant. I didn't move, but simply sank my heels deep into the gravel and calmly said, "You've fallen. You pick it up." The training ground was completely silent. Even the wind had stopped. Cain jerked his head up, his eyes blazing with fury. "What did you just say?" Simonin whistled softly. "Damn, Eve. Changed tactics, has she? Just 2 days ago you were showering him with affection. Now you are acting like a queen?" Another person chimed in, louder. "Girl, you are just his simp, always sticking to him like glue." "Time. Do you think your deceased father would be proud of your actions?" Before I could retort, soft footsteps broke the tense atmosphere. Lena limped in, her leather skirt brushing past her knees and her trousers stained with blood. She crouched down, biting her lip with her teeth, her hands trembling. She gripped the blade, cold sweat seeped into her skin. Cain's gaze snapped to her. He grabbed her wrist, fear evident on his face. "Didn't I tell you to rest? Who gave you permission to stay here?" He turned sharply to me, his eyes blazing with anger. "Look at Lena. She is injured, yet she is still helping me. And what about you? You just stood there like a spoiled child. You have absolutely no sense of responsibility." Then he chuckled. "You just crawled out of my father's office, didn't you? Are you trying to gain sympathy again? Are you going to bring up your father's matter again? To take a knife for him? To beg to be my partner?" He sneered. "You are pathetic, Eve. Always tormenting others with guilt, always resorting to scheming and trickery. You've used every means to trap me." I gripped my sleeve tightly, my voice flat. He didn't say a word. "Alpha called me. He will personally preside over my coming of age ceremony." The air snapped like a whip. "Is Alpha Werewolf going to preside over her ritual?" The wolves surrounded Cain, their voices full of flattery. "Congratulations, buddy. If the Alpha Wolves, he is going to officiate her wedding. He is arranging for you to take over. When you become Alpha, don't forget us." Cain raised his chin, a hint of smugness hidden beneath his somber expression. Then, his gaze sharpened. "Come back to me. But let's be clear first. If we do end up getting married, then leave me alone. Doing business with Lena, knowing your place." Or he paused, his eyes turning grim. "I won't be your partner unless you want to repeat the same mistakes." Just like last time, I felt a spasm in my chest. So what does that mean exactly? Does he remember too? He picked up Lena and left without looking back. Whispers quickly followed, then laughter. I stared at their backs and then couldn't help but chuckle softly. "Perfect. I never intended to develop any intimate relationship with you." On my coming of age day, Cain was late. With Lena, I've always been by his side. Her lips were swollen, and fresh red scratches were visible on his collarbone. The nearby wolves exchanged a knowing smile. There is no doubt that they did something in the shadows. If I lived in my past life, I would definitely rush over, tear off their masks, and loudly question them. Why did they humiliate me at my wedding now? I glanced at them, then looked away as if they were dust on my boots. Cain caught the fleeting glint of light. He abruptly reached out and pulled Lena behind him. I didn't back down, and he began to fidget. Then he chuckled softly and menacingly. "What? Eve, are you playing the saint now because you are afraid I won't be your partner? Don't do that. Stupid. How about this then? He leaned closer, lowered his voice, and his gaze swept over me. After the ceremony, meet me at the hot spring behind the mountain. Don't wear anything. Your body is worth it for me to do this. Maybe I'll let you into my bed. Lena pouted and tugged at his sleeve. Kane, how can you say that? This isn't my body. Better than hers. Kane grinned and pinched her cheek. You are definitely better than me, 1,000 times better. Several times already, that hot spring. It is yours now. I even added some herbs. Just wait and see. May your leg recover soon. Lena's eyes lit up, and she gave me a smug look. The wolves around us roared with laughter. Whistles and vulgar jokes flew like knives. The sound was like a bolt from the blue, instantly waking me up from my past. He has done this before, humiliating me in front of everyone. That is how he treated me. Some teething toys. I was trembling with anger. He just laughed and said that my shame excited him. Some people tried to defend me. Kane dismissed them, calling me a hot-blooded jerk, a pursuer of scraps and leftovers. Poor thing, I turned to leave, but then he grabbed my wrist, still pretending. He tightened his grip, almost digging into the bone. A wolf like you can't fake it. What do you? I jerked my hand back, my knuckles turning white. Watch your words, he sneered. Respect. Didn't you waste your whole life begging for something? Want to get close to me, since you are going to end up in my bed anyway? Why pretend to be innocent? Now. Who said we're close? Silence is like a sharp blade piercing the throat. Then, a burst of laughter erupted. Loud, unpleasant laughter filled the air. Kane laughed the loudest. Not contacting me then? Who are you contacting? Everyone. I knew you would die for me. What, Casey? He scoffed. Casey has been rotting in the Black Forest for years. Everyone says so, hanging. He was wild. He skinned a Graveclaw wolf that had challenged him, then rode off, leaving the wolf's carcass behind. Are you planning to have an intimate relationship with him, or do you want to die sooner? What, speechless now? Kane sneered. Weren't you so agitated just now? A long time ago? Or did you finally get scared? Lena chimed in, her voice as sweet as syrup. Eve probably still remembers those stories about Casey. She gently tugged at Kane's sleeve, but her gaze remained fixed on me. If you were close to him, you might not even be able to find a place to bury your bones. Laughter echoed through the crowd. A few young wolves whistled. Great job, hint. If it were my past life, I would probably pounce on Lena and rip her hair out. But what about this time? Different. Who I choose is none of your business, I said calmly and composedly, even though at that moment, surprise. Lena's smile twitched. Then she clutched her chest and began to cough. My shoulders are shaking uncontrollably. Eve, don't be like this, she whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. I was just worried about you. About you. Do you remember? You once carried a hunter's silver dagger for Kane. I turned to leave. She gasped first, then her wineglass slipped, and the instant it fell. She leaned sharply towards me. The next second she staggered backward, as if I had pushed her, and then fell to the ground. It fell heavily to the floor. Eve, Lena's cry tore through the air, tears streaming down her face. Even if you hate me, but you can't stop me, my legs. They hurt so much. Kane's face darkened. He stood in front of her like a shield, his anger radiating from him. He asked, Really, Eve, you are so jealous now. He scooped her up in his arms, as if she had been caressed by moonlight, his eyes filled with pain. She is yours. Elder sister, Lena was originally just my cousin, but after she moved in, everyone assumed she was my cousin. Otherwise, Lena peeked out from behind his shoulder, a mischievous grin on her face. I couldn't help but laugh. I didn't touch her at all, still lying. Kane grabbed my wrist. The whole pack knows you're jealous. Lena, if you hadn't held me so tightly, I wouldn't have even noticed you. Lena tugged at his arm, her voice trembling, and said, "Cain, don't do this. Eve might just be." She was heartbroken. She had always thought you would choose her. A soft voice is better than sharp claws. The whispers started again. Just like before. They said I forced my partner. I am dependent on my father's name, yet I cannot control myself. Elder sister. These rumors clung to me like the spittle of a jealous she-wolf, filthy and impossible to erase. Cain's anger finally erupted. He raised his hand and slapped me hard across the face. "It is difficult. You'd better behave yourself. If you dare touch Lena again, I'll kick you out of Silvermoon City. I'll pack my own luggage." The stinging sensation on my cheek spread like fire. I really wanted to fight back. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw the guests moving around inside the venue. This is my coming of age ceremony. Making trouble will only delay things. Abel's name emerged from the soil. Lena hid behind Cain, a smug smile still playing on her lips. She leaned against his chest, as if it had been rehearsed beforehand. Cain's hand hung in midair. Perhaps he realized he had gone too far. His throat. It wobbles up and down as if the text is stuck. But Lena stood on tiptoe and sobbed, "Cain, my legs hurt so much. What if I can no longer walk?" Her fingers gripped his wrist tightly, drawing all his attention. Whispers surged forth like a tide, their gazes piercing like poisonous needles. It pierced my skin. She is incredibly rude. She would even attack her own sister for her partner. As if she had a chance, Cain would never choose her. Cain glared at me with disgust. "Why are you still standing there if... You'll regret it if anything happens to Lena." His group of followers jumped in noisily and enthusiastically. "Yes, apologize to Lena. Do you think that just because your dad won a silver medal, he can hold on to our next alpha forever? Shoot an arrow for him." I remembered everything. Self-destruction for Cain, training relentlessly. He scared away anyone who dared to look at him. I used to think that cold-heartedness was love. Now, I only feel sorrow. He approached, his eyes fierce and filled with murderous intent. "Father is about to announce our cooperation. Be wise, don't overstep boundaries." Then, his tone calmed down, with a hint of smugness as always. "Once the contract is signed, I will give you a military rank. You deserve it, but don't mess with me and Lena." I stared straight at him, my gaze fixed on his eyes. A long, hollow horn sounded. Beta walked in. "Miss Abel, it is time." His hazy gaze fell on my bruised cheek, a hint of pity flashing in his eyes. Behind him stood a figure dressed in black. The hood hung low, and the jawline was sharp as a knife. He carried a silver-etched blade on his back, with a wolf fang pendant swaying gently. It was as if it had a heartbeat. Casey Crescent Moon, Theron's eldest son, just returned from the Black Forest. The silence struck like a heavy blow. The puppies in front almost tripped and fell. Someone accidentally knocked over a wine bowl. When strong liquor meets fire, the flames hiss and crackle. Even the beta version has some oddities. Everyone knows Casey's abilities. He had just skinned a challenger from the Graveclaw pack, and his body still reeked of blood. Casey stopped in front of me. His blade flipped smoothly. Sheath gently patted my arm. "What happened to your face?" His voice was sharp and serious, his gaze icy. "They cut me in half. I met those deep blue eyes, and I saw it. That memory." He was furious. The dungeon was stained with blood and in complete chaos. He held my corpse in his arms, as if my body had crushed him. He was willing to betray me for my sake. "It is nothing." I forced a smile, trying to hide the bruises on my body. Cain chuckled and slid down to us. "Casey, Eve is my problem. Don't worry about her." He got into position. "She is about to become my partner. Everything's under control." Beta frowned, about to speak, but Casey's look silenced him. He pulled down his hood. His features were sharp. His expression became even more piercing. "My father sent me," he said. "The Abel family girls' ceremony is a collective affair. Let's go. I walked past Kane with steady steps. He leaned closer to Lena and whispered, "See, you still know how to obey." Kane's face was almost beaming with smugness, as if he had already seen the Alpha Clan's emblem. It hung around his neck. Yes, it didn't last long. As soon as the wolf pack filled the hall, Saren stepped down from standing on the platform. He gripped the scepter carved with wolf fangs. His silver hair shimmered under the light. The man looked very old. He is 100 years old, yet still a legendary figure. He smiled and reached out to shake my hand. "It's a big day," he said loudly, looking around the room. "Eve's here. She has reached marriageable age, just as I promised her father. She will choose one of my sons as her husband, a mate. Once she does that, the wolf will become the next alpha wolf. Everyone has their own opinion on who will take over Silvermoon City, becoming alpha. This is not just a title, it signifies complete control." A gasp rippled through the hall. All eyes turned to Kane, some filled with envy. Yes, they all remember how infatuated I used to be with him. "Now," Theron said, patting my hand, "let the chosen one step forward, I will." I saw Kane suddenly straightened up, chin held high, already striking a victory pose, until Theron raised his hand. Then Theron turned around and looked gently into the corner. Casey. He changed into formal attire. His hair was tightly tied back, meticulous from every angle. His face was sharply defined, as if it could cut. He held a bunch of moonlight petals in his hand. Still, light shines through the cedar forest. He walked over with steady steps and stopped in front of me. "Are you ready, Eve?" His voice was deep and certain. When Casey spoke for the second time, the hall buzzed like a beehive that had been kicked. The wolf pack, he leaned closer and whispered quickly. "How is he? Didn't Eve love Kane so much that she almost died for him?" Why, Casey, was this some kind of mistake? Kane's face suddenly darkened. He strode forward angrily, his voice trembling with fear. "Father, there must be a mistake." Theron glared at him fiercely, her eyes colder than winter, and then slammed the door shut. The scepter fell heavily downwards. "I may be getting old," he growled in a low voice, "but I'm not senile yet. Do you think I'll mess this up? The choice that will determine the future of Silvermoon City." Beta stepped forward, holding a scroll. "Alpha's decision is final. Eve has already." She chose Casey as her partner. Kane quickly interjected, his voice trembling slightly. "No, something's wrong. Something's definitely not right." He turned around abruptly, his face filled with despair. "Eve, tell them you chose me." Father was just. He got it wrong, didn't he? I gave a faint, firm smile. I chose Casey. He is now my partner. The only one. Casey tightened her control over the moon petals slightly. When our eyes met, a strange light flashed in his eyes. It was surprise. Real and naked surprise. Kane suddenly exploded like two bombs detonating simultaneously. He lunged at me, grabbing my wrist so hard it bruised. "Liar, you love me. Everyone knows you would give your life for me. How could you choose this barbarian?" "Your father forced you to do it, didn't he?" Beta suddenly squeezed between us and ripped Kane's hand away. He turned towards. The wolves circled nearby. "What are you waiting for? Get him out of here. Unless you are." He wanted to fight too. They acted immediately, dragging Kane back. Kane kicked and struggled, letting out deafening roars. It was enough to shake the walls. "Eve, say something. Tell them it's wrong. You chose me." Theron waved. The guards slammed the gate shut with a thud, the sound echoing dully. Silence is as painful as a slap in the face. The tester handed me a wooden box engraved with a silver moon pattern totem. "Miss Abel, this is a gift from Alpha. May your bond grow even stronger." Box. I stared down at it, a sudden throbbing in my chest. Inside is the Alpha family crest, passed down through generations. The person Kane had been searching for in his previous life. At the banquet, the torchlight danced along the stone wall. I looked around but couldn't see Kane anywhere. I turned around, holding the berry wine in my hand, and bumped headfirst into a sturdy box. A pungent smell of pine wood hit me, and my eyes felt burning. Back then, Kane locked me in the cellar, and it was Casey who kicked me. They pushed open the door and carried me out. I could barely breathe. He was covered in blood, looking utterly disheveled, and roared at the wolves that were attacking us. "If you dare touch her again, I'll skin you alive and bury you with her." After I died, he turned that dungeon into a bloody slaughterhouse, dragging everyone out. Kane told Theron his dirty secrets directly. At that time, my soul had already left my body, leaving only a soul, quietly watching him face everything. "Please pack it up for me." It was only then that I realized this ferocious wolf had always put me first. Ever since I came back, a voice inside me has been saying, choosing him was the right thing to do. After the banquet began, Theron gestured for Casey to sit to his right. Every wolf in the hall froze. That position means one thing: Casey will be the next alpha. The hall was deathly silent. If a pin were to fall to the ground, I think the entire city of Silver Moon could hear it. As soon as Theron finished speaking, the air froze, like a heavy, cold piece of iron pressing down on everyone's chest. The next alpha. These 6 words were more destructive than Kane's earlier roar. I could feel Casey beside me, his muscles tensed instantly, like a fully drawn bow. He didn't move, not even breathe. He just sat there, a silent, menacing statue. I stole a glance at him. His profile was sharply defined in the firelight, but his gaze was fixed on the shadows of the hall, where the members of the wolf pack were frozen in place. Their expressions stoic, their eyes filled with raw shock, bewilderment, and resentment. Yes, resentment. Casey, a savage of unknown origin, a marginalized figure, ostracized and despised by them, is about to become their king. This is even more unacceptable to them than my choice of him as a partner. My father, Theron, the current alpha of Silver Moon City, seemed oblivious to all of this. He raised his glass, a mysterious smile on his face that sent chills down my spine. "For a new beginning," his voice boomed, echoing through the hall. "For Eve and Casey, for a strong future for our people." No one responded. An awkward silence spread like vines throughout the space. I saw that Beta's face was very pale. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he just stiffly raised his glass. Some elders also raised their glasses, their movements slow and deliberate, as if their arms weighed a ton. But most of the young werewolves, Kane's supporters, just stared intently at Casey, their eyes like knives. I have to do something. I took a deep breath, calmed my racing heart, and reached out to take Casey's hand, which was resting on the table. His hands were hot, covered with rough calluses, and his finger bones were clearly visible. The moment I grasped them, he shuddered and turned sharply to look at me. In his eyes, I saw the same surprise as before, but this time there was also a hint of inquiry. He asked me, "What exactly are you doing?" I didn't answer, but simply gave him a smile. A happy and shy smile, the kind a bride should have. Then, I picked up my wine glass with my other hand, leaning slightly towards him in an intimate gesture. "For us," I said softly, my voice not loud but loud enough for those around me to hear. My actions were like Casey's eyes flickered, the surprise and doubt in them slowly settling down, replaced by a calm, wolf-like alertness. He grasped my hand in return, the grip light but with an undeniable firmness. Then, he raised his glass. "For us," he began, his voice low and hoarse like sandpaper scraping against rock. With us taking the lead, the atmosphere finally eased a little. A few toasts broke out, and people began to talk in hushed tones. But the atmosphere remained strange. They were talking about nothing more than us. I am the woman who betrayed true love. He was an ambitious man who rose to power overnight. Theron looked at us with satisfaction, took a sip of his drink, and then turned to Casey. "Kane's friends might cause you some trouble. You know what to do." This is not a suggestion, but more like a command, or rather, a test. Casey didn't answer immediately. He picked up a piece of roast meat and slowly cut it with the dagger he carried, as if it were not food but some kind of enemy. Wolves only follow the strong. He placed a small piece of cut meat on my plate and said without looking up, "The weak only deserve to be eliminated." His voice was not loud, but it carried a bloody stench. A young werewolf sitting near us suddenly stood up. His name was Leo, one of Kane's most loyal followers in a past life. He was also an accomplice in locking me up in the cellar. "A strong man," Leo scoffed, his face full of disdain. "A vagrant who can't even explain his origins dares to talk about being a strongman. What do you rely on? It is nothing more than bewitching Miss Alpha." His words were like a pebble thrown into still water, and the hall fell silent once more. All eyes are on us. I could feel Casey's grip on the knife tighten, the veins on the back of his hand bulging. A murderous aura, an undisguised murderous aura emanated from him. But I can't let him do it here, in Theron's test. A reckless brute who only knows how to kill will never get the highest score. Before he could react, I let out a soft ouch. My hand trembled, and the wine glass clattered to the ground, spilling red berry wine all over my skirt. "I am sorry," I stood up in a fluster, my face showing just the right amount of helplessness and grievance. "Leo, I know you feel sorry for Kane, but this is my choice. Are you saying this to accuse me of being stupid?" My voice trembled slightly, and my eyes quickly welled up with tears. Leo was stunned. He can attack Casey, but he can't openly accuse me, Alpha's daughter. His face flushed red, and he stammered. I didn't mean that, Miss Eve. That is enough." Theron's icy voice interrupted him. "It seems the wine at the banquet has made you dizzy. Beta, take him away to sober up." "Yes, Alpha." Beta immediately stepped forward and grabbed Leo by the back of his collar like a chick. "Let me go. I am not drunk." Leo struggled, his eyes sweeping over me and Casey with venomous glare. "You'll regret this. Kane won't let this go so easily." His shouts were dragged out the door, and the banquet hall fell silent again. Theron's gaze slowly swept across the room, carrying an undeniable air of authority. "Is there anyone else who objects to my decision, to my daughter's choice?" Silence reigned. Theron's gaze finally settled on Casey, a hint of scrutiny in her eyes. "Not bad." He was referring to me. He saw through my little trick, but he didn't call me out on it. Casey also looked at me, his gaze complex, no longer just wary and distant. He seemed to be trying to discern something beyond my facade from my face. I lowered my head, avoiding his gaze, and pretended to adjust my skirt. My heart was pounding wildly in my chest. I think I barely passed the first hurdle. But this is just the beginning. The real test comes after the banquet. The banquet finally ended in an eerie harmony. Casey and I were escorted back to my room by the guards. This is the first time I've returned here since my rebirth. My favorite paintings hang on the walls, and my usual incense is on the table. Everything is exactly the same as I remember, yet it feels incredibly unfamiliar. Because now, there is another man in this room, my partner. After saluting outside the door, the guard turned and left, his footsteps fading into the distance in the corridor. The door was closed. There were only the two of us left in the room. The air seemed to have been sucked out, and I could hear the sound of my own blood flowing. Casey didn't move. He stood in the center of the room, like a wild beast that had stumbled into a human trap, exuding an aura of wariness. His gaze quickly swept across every corner of the room, finally settling on me. That gaze was so aggressive, like a physical touch, that it made my skin tighten. "Why?" He finally spoke, his voice even hoarser than at the banquet. "What do you mean? Why?" I pretended not to understand, walked to the dressing table and sat down, my fingers unconsciously stroking the silver comb on the table. "You know what I'm asking." He took a step forward, closing the distance between us, and the scent of pine and cold wind emanating from him became more pronounced. "Choose me, make him the next alpha. Is that your plan?" My heart sank. He is more perceptive than I imagined. Unlike Cain, who angrily questioned why I didn't love him, he went straight to the heart of the matter, the plan. I looked at him in the mirror. His figure was tall and silent, exuding a sense of oppression. "I don't know what you are talking about." I continued to play dumb, picking up a comb and brushing my long hair back and forth. "I just chose the partner I wanted." "What you want?" He let out a low, almost mocking laugh. "Eve, look me in the eyes." My hand stopped. I slowly turned around and met his gaze. In the flickering candlelight, his eyes shone with an astonishing brightness, like two clusters of eerie green will. Oh, the wisps, seemingly capable of piercing through all lies. "Before today, you had spoken to me no more than 10 times, he said, emphasizing each word. "You didn't even dare to look me in the eye. Your friends called me savage, filthy hybrid, and you never argued back." He took another step forward. "You're afraid of me," he stated. "So tell me, why would you choose a man you're afraid of as a partner?" I cannot answer, because what he said was true. In my past life before my rebirth, I was indeed like that. Like all pampered females, I harbored a natural fear and alienation towards Cassie, a male full of primal wildness. How can I explain this abrupt change? Tell him I died once and saw him avenge me, so I was moved that I wanted to repay him with my body. He would think I am crazy. My throat went dry and my brain raced, searching for a plausible excuse. "Is it because of Cain?" He finished for me, his eyes sharpening. "You want to get rid of him, and I am the only one who dares to oppose him without actually killing his pawn." He actually guessed this layer. No, not entirely correct, but he is very close. I cannot admit it. Once I admit it is a transaction, the fragile, fake partnership between us will immediately crumble. I need him in this castle, at least for now. I forced myself to calm down, raised my head, and looked him straight in the eyes. "I chose you, not because of Cain." "Why is that?" he pressed, relentlessly pursuing the question. "Because of the cellar." When I said those 3 words, Casey's body visibly stiffened. I seized the opportunity and continued, my voice low and trembling with lingering fear. "That day, Cain locked me inside. I remember. Then, you came. My memories are a bit jumbled. Are they memories from a past life, or did they happen in this life that I just ignored? It doesn't matter anymore." You kicked the door open. I looked at him, trying to make my eyes seem sincere. You were covered in blood, blocking the doorway, and you said to those people, "If you touch her again, I'll skin you alive." Kathy's pupils contracted sharply. He remembers. "This really happened. I made the right bet." I stood up and slowly walked towards him, each step cautious, as if testing a wounded wolf. Before that, everyone told me that Cain loved me and would protect me. But it was he who locked me in the darkness. It was you who pulled me out of the darkness. I stopped in front of him. We were only a step apart. Cain's love is a beautiful cage, a magnificent chain. He says he loves me, but he only wants to mold me into what he wants me to be. My voice was filled with genuine emotion, all the pain and resentment accumulated from my past life. "But you, I see something different in your eyes." "What?" His voice was somewhat hoarse. "Respect," I said. "Although you look fierce, you have never forced anyone. You saved that bullied Omega child, and you shared your food with the starving old wolf. I saw it all. These are all scenes I witnessed in my past life when I was wandering in spirit form. Now, I have turned them all into the reasons for my choice of him. So, my choice of you is not a spur of the moment decision, nor is it part of any plan." I looked up, meeting his gaze frankly. don't want to stay in this cage anymore. I want to choose a partner who will treat me as an equal person, not as an object. That is all I have to say." Silence fell in the room once again. Casey stared at me without moving, his eyes like a bottomless lake, and I couldn't tell whether he believed me or not. My palms were sweaty. This statement, 7 parts truth and 3 parts falsehood, was the most perfect explanation I could come up with. If even this couldn't convince him, just when I was about to give up, he suddenly reached out and gently touched my cheek with his rough fingertips. I was jolted and instinctively wanted to back away. His hand froze in midair, and his eyes darkened for a moment. "You are still afraid of me." "It is not a question, it is a certainty." I bit my lip. "I need some time." He silently withdrew his hand, turned around, walked to the window, and opened it. The evening breeze blew in, dispelling the ambiguous yet tense atmosphere in the room. "Theron entrusted you to me not just to make you my partner." His voice was carried on the wind, somewhat ethereal. "He has placed the future stability of Silvermoon City on our shoulders. I know, Cain won't let this go." He looked out the window. "His mother comes from the stone city beyond the mountains, a wolf pack far more powerful than ours. If he asks his mother's family for help," my heart skipped a beat. This was something I hadn't expected. "In my past life, Cain went mad. But his mother's family didn't intervene because he only became reckless after he got me. In this life, however, I publicly rejected him, which was tantamount to slapping the face of Rock City. So, we're true allies now." He turned around, his gaze intense. "Whether what you said earlier was true or not, from tonight onwards, you and I are in the same boat. Eve, do you understand?" I nodded vigorously. "I understand. Very good." He closed the window, shutting out the chill from outside. "Tonight, you'll sleep in the bed, and I'll sleep on the floor. I won't touch you until I have your true trust." After he finished speaking, he actually dragged a thick fur blanket out of the wardrobe next to him, spread it out in a corner away from the bed, and then lay down fully clothed with his back to me. I stood there, stunned, watching his broad back, my heart filled with mixed emotions. He said he wouldn't touch me. I should feel fortunate and safe. But for some reason, deep down, there was a strange sense of loss. I blew out the candle and lay down in bed in the dark. The bed was big and soft, but it felt empty. I could hear Casey's steady breathing not far away. This gave me a sense of peace I had never felt before. Perhaps, in this life, I really made the right choice. The next morning, I was awakened by a series of urgent knocks on the door. "Miss Eve, Lady Casey, Alpha requests your immediate presence in the council chamber." It was Beta's voice. He sounded very anxious. I sat bolt upright, my heart pounding. Casey was no longer on the floor. I was alone in the room. I quickly got dressed and opened the door. Beta stood at the door, his face grave. "Something's happened," he said. When we arrived at the council chamber, it was already full of people. Saren sat in the main seat, his face ashen. Several tribal elders stood on either side, their expressions serious. In the center of the hall, a guard covered in wounds knelt. "What happened?" I asked. Theron glanced at me, then turned her gaze to Casey, who had just walked in from behind me. Cain escaped. Theron's voice was devoid of emotion. "Last night, someone attacked the dungeon, wounded the guards, and let him go." My heart skipped a beat. So fast. I looked at the wounded guard. "Who did this?" The guard weakly raised his head. It is ... it is Leo." There were 5 of them, all with their faces covered, but I recognized Leo's voice. "It is him again." "Which way did he run?" Casey asked, her voice as cold as ice. "The dense forest to the east," the guard replied. "Our men are in pursuit, but the enemy is cunning. The forest is full of traps they've set. A bunch of useless trash." An elder couldn't help but shout angrily. 5 people managed to raid Alpha's dungeon. What are the guards of Silvermoon City doing? Theron raised his hand, stopping the elder's roar. His gaze was once again fixed on Casey. "Casey," he said. "This is your first task. Bring Kane back, dead or alive." All eyes in the hall were once again focused on Casey. This is not just a task, but a hot potato. If Casey fails to capture Kane, his prestige will vanish, and everything at yesterday's banquet will become a joke. If he captures Kane, what should be done with him? Kill him. He was a top contender for Alpha, and the grandson of Rock City. Don't kill him. That would be like releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Moreover, since Kane dared to run, he must have a backup plan. The dense forest to the east. Beyond the dense forest lies the road to Stone City. This is a dead end. I looked at Casey nervously, my palms sweating. Casey, however, remained unusually calm. He stepped forward and nodded slightly to Theron. "Yes, Alpha." Without the slightest hesitation. He didn't even make any requests, such as how many people to bring or what kind of support was needed. He accepted this almost impossible task. However, he changed the subject, his gaze sweeping over the elders present. "I need something. Speak," Theron said. "Command of the Alpha Guard." Casey's voice was not loud, but it was firm and resolute. "From now on until I bring Kane back, all guards will obey only my orders." The elders were in an uproar. The Alpha Guard is an elite force directly under Alpha, a symbol of power. Casey's immediate demand for this reveals his ambition. "No," the elder who had spoken earlier immediately objected. "How can we entrust the command of the guard to someone like you, an outsider?" "I agree." Theron interrupted him swiftly and decisively. He took a silver plaque engraved with a wolf head totem from his waist and tossed it to Casey. "This is a token for troop deployment." Theron looked at him meaningfully. "Don't disappoint me." Casey caught the silver medal steadily and held it in her hand. "Certainly." After he finished speaking, he turned and walked out. He didn't look at anyone, including me. His back view was resolute and aloof as I watched him leave. A tremendous sense of unease gripped my heart. I don't know where he is going, what his plans are, or what he'll be facing. All I know is that from the moment he walked out of that council chamber, our fates were completely intertwined. Either he returns in glory, and we stand together at the pinnacle of power. Either he will disappear forever into the dense forests to the east, and I, as his accomplice in his failure, will be torn to pieces by Kane and his supporters. The door to the council chamber closed slowly behind me, shutting out all prying and discussion inside. The corridor was deserted. The cold marble floor reflected the light from the torches on the walls, casting my shadow long and thin, as if it might be swallowed by darkness at any moment. My heart was pounding like a drum being pounded wildly. Casey is gone. He left just like that, like a sword drawn from its sheath, with an unwavering resolve, without leaving me a single word. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms, leaving several crescent-shaped red marks. Pain. But I need this pain to stay awake. I can't stay here. Staying here, I am just a vase strapped to the hero's chariot. A symbol, a stake. If Casey wins, I share in the glory. If he loses, I'll be the first to be dragged down and sacrificed. I will never be a prisoner who can only wait for sentencing. My mind raced. Casey had taken command of the Alpha Guard. Where would he go? Military camp. He was going to take command of the guards and then go to the dense forest to the east to hunt down Kane. This is everyone's first reaction, and also the most logical deduction. But I know Casey. He never does anything logical. The more logical and straightforward a path seems, the more likely he is to avoid it. Because that path is often riddled with the most deadly traps. A thought struck me like lightning. What if the pursuit isn't his first step? I turned around, lifted my skirt, and instead of heading towards my palace, I ran quickly towards the dark staircase leading to the Silvermoon City dungeon in another direction. The dungeon reeked of blood and damp mold, making it nauseating. Several guards were cleaning up the scene. When they saw me, they were stunned, stopped what they were doing, and bowed. Luna ignored them and walked straight to the cell that had been violently broken open. The steel lock was snapped in two by brute force, leaving a charred mark at the break, as if it had been instantly melted and solidified by some kind of high temperature. The cell was empty except for a pile of scattered hay. I crouched down and picked up a blade of dry grass. The scent of Cain still lingered on it. Mania, resentment, and a faint, herbal scent. It is very faint, almost undetectable. But I've always been extremely sensitive to the scents of various plants, and I would never mistake this special scent that is a blend of moonflower and wolfsbane. This is a unique wound medicine from the city of Giant Rock, said to be extremely effective. But the recipe is never revealed to outsiders. Was Cain injured while in custody, or was it something he always carried with him? I stood up and scanned the entire dungeon with my eyes. "Bring that wounded guard here," I ordered. Soon, the guard who had identified Leo in the council chamber was brought over by two companions. His face was even paler, and although the wound on his arm had been simply bandaged, blood still seeped through the gauze. "Luna," he called weakly. I walked up to him and looked down at him. "Say it again. Who kidnapped Cain?" It was Leo." He gasped for breath, his eyes darting around. I heard his voice. "Oh," I drawled. "The dungeon was attacked, swords clashed, chaos reigned. You were seriously injured at the time, yet you were still able to accurately recognize Leo's voice among 5 people." The guard's expression changed instantly. I've dealt with Leo many times. I know his voice very well," he hurriedly explained. "Really?" I took a step forward, almost touching his face, and asked in a low voice, enunciating each word clearly, "When you were injured, did you smell herbs?" His pupils suddenly contracted. This tiny change did not escape my notice. What herb? I don't know what you're talking about." He began to tremble, not from the pain of his wound, but from fear. "The healing potion from Boulder City." As I said these words, I clearly saw the color drain from his face in an instant. He is finished. I finally understand. This was not a simple prison break. This is a conspiracy orchestrated from both inside and outside. This guard is Cain's man. He created the breach from within, and it is even possible that he injured himself and then framed Rissan, all to draw everyone's attention to the dense forest to the east, buying time for Cain's real escape route. And Casey. Did he think of this too? "Keep him under close watch and don't allow anyone to visit him," I ordered the guard beside me, my voice unusually cold. "Yes, Luna." I didn't look at the traitor who was limp as a rag doll anymore and turned around to rush out of the dungeon. I must find Casey immediately. I practically ran to the military camp, on the vast training ground. The Alpha Guard had already assembled. 200 of Silvermoon City's most elite warriors, clad in silver armor and wielding sharp blades, stood silently in the moonlight, like a silent steel forest. A chilling atmosphere swept over us. Casey stood at the very front of the line. He changed out of his fine clothes and into a tight, fitting outfit, the black leather armor outlining his broad shoulders and lean waist. The silver wolf head badge, representing his command, hung at his waist, reflecting a cold, hard light with his movements. He didn't give the passionate speech I had imagined. He simply stood there, his gaze calmly sweeping over everyone. But all the guards stood tall, their eyes burning with longing and awe. When I arrived, he had just given his first order. One team, block the east, south, and west gates. Without my order, not even a fly is allowed to escape. His voice wasn't loud, but it reached everyone's ears clearly. Upon receiving the order, a group of about 50 men immediately broke away from the main force, without a sound. Their movements were swift, and their training was excellent. They disappeared at the gate of the military camp in the blink of an eye. I was stunned. Should the city gates be sealed off? Why, shouldn't he immediately take men to chase after Cain? Second team, take over the defense of all main roads in the city, check all inns and taverns, and question all suspicious persons. Another group of men received their orders and left. 3 teams surround the Elders' Council. Upon receiving this order, not only I, but also the remaining 100 guards experienced a slight commotion. Surround the Elders' Council. This is absolutely insane. The Elder Council is one of the core centers of power within the Wolf Clan, and every Alpha has shown the Elders great respect. Casey, having just assumed command of the guard, his first act was to send troops to surround them. What is he trying to do? Is he planning a rebellion? What? Don't you understand what I am saying? Casey's tone remained unchanged, but her eyes suddenly turned cold. The captain of the guard trembled and immediately bowed his head. Yes, your subordinate obeys. After saying that, he led his men and rushed out without hesitation. On the training ground, only Casey, the last 50 men, and I, standing there dumbfounded, remained. Casey seemed to only then notice my presence. He turned around and walked towards me. The moonlight shone on his face, giving his handsome features a silvery edge, but it couldn't illuminate his deep eyes. "Why are you here?" he asked, his tone revealing neither joy nor anger. I opened my mouth, a belly full of questions and discoveries stuck in my throat, but I didn't know where to begin. "That guard in the dungeon, there is something wrong with him." "I know," Casey replied, her voice eerily calm. "You know?" I stared wide-eyed. "Then why? Why seal off the city and surround the Council of Elders instead of interrogating him directly?" He finished the sentence for me. I nodded. "Because interrogating him will only yield a small fish." Casey walked up to me and stopped. "My goal is to catch all the sharks hiding in the deep waters of Silvermoon City all at once." His ambitions are far greater than I imagined. He didn't consider capturing Kane his top priority at all. He intends to use Kane's escape to carry out a complete purge of the forces within Silvermoon City. That madman. "Theron Alpha won't agree to you doing this," I retorted instinctively. "You're challenging his authority." "He will." Casey's lips curled into an almost imperceptible smile. "Because I'm helping him remove those nails. He's always wanted to remove but didn't dare to. He gave me command, which is to say, he gave me this knife. Right now, he probably wants me to make a bigger scene than anyone else." I stared at him blankly, feeling like I was meeting him for the first time. This man is meticulous, ruthless, and his scheming against people is simply outrageous. Theron, the Elders, Kane, and even the traitorous guard, everyone became pawns on his chessboard. "So, what are you planning to do next?" My voice was a little hoarse. "Wait," Kaishi uttered a single word. "Wait, yes, wait." He turned to the 50 guards remaining on the drill ground. "Kane's men think we've all gone to the eastern forest, leaving the city vulnerable. They'll soon move on to the second phase of their plan. What we need to do now is wait for them to show themselves." He paused, turned to look at me, and his gaze finally softened. "You've come at the right time. I do have something I need you to do." My heart jumped. "What is it?" "Leo," Casey said. "The Leo that the guard identified. He's the Stone City's liaison in Silver Moon, Kane's absolute confidant. If Kane has any backup plans in the city, he must be the one making those contacts." "So, you want me to go and catch Leo?" I was a little unsure. Casey shook her head. "No, not arrest him." His eyes turned extremely serious. "I need you to protect him every step of the way. Protect him." I was completely confused. "Yes." Casey took a folded piece of parchment from her pocket and handed it to me. "This is a suspect list I just drafted. There are 7 people in total, and Leo's name is first." I unfolded the parchment, and every name on it sent chills down my spine. There were wealthy merchants, a squad leader of the guard, and even the son of an elder. "Go find Leo right now," Casey said in a low voice, as if it had a seductive power. "Tell him you suspect the dungeon guard is lying, that you think he's been framed, then casually show him this list." My mind went blank. I instantly understood Casey's intention. This is a fake list of suspects. Casey wasn't even sure if Leo was the mastermind, and he wasn't even sure if the people on the list were actually guilty. He is bluffing. He used a fake list to test a real mole. If Leo shows any unusual behavior after seeing this list, or tries to contact the other people on the list, it proves that he is Kane's most important pawn planted in the city. My task was to observe him and write down all his reactions. This is 100 times more sophisticated, and also 100 times more dangerous than simply arresting him. Why me? I couldn't help but ask. Because you're the only one he won't be wary of. Casey looked me in the eyes. You're my Luna, in everyone's eyes. What you should be doing right now is doing everything you can to clear my name and prove my abilities. If you go to help him clear his name, he'll only think you're naive, stupid, and eager for quick results. He'll never suspect that I sent you. Naive, foolish. Looking at Kai, I suddenly felt like laughing. So this is how I am in his mind. That is fine. I understand. I put away the parchment and nodded. Is there anything else you need to tell me? Yes. Casey's gaze fell on my hands. Take care of yourself. After he finished speaking, he took a small silver whistle from his waist and put it into my palm. This is an emergency signal whistle used exclusively by the Alpha Guard. If you blow it, someone will definitely arrive within 3 minutes. The whistle still carried his body heat. The cold metal felt almost burning hot in my hand. My heart, too, calmed down inexplicably with that warmth. I am leaving. I didn't say another word, turned around, and walked towards the direction of Leo's house. I knew that from the moment I received that list, I had become a hunter in this hunting game. My prey could bite me back at any moment. Leo's home is in the wealthy district of Silver Moon City. It is a rather grand stone house when I arrived. His house was quiet. The 2 servants were startled when they saw me and hurriedly bowed. Luna, what brings you here? I'm looking for Leo. Is he here? I tried to make my tone sound anxious and angry. The master is in the study, the servant stammered. I pushed him aside and walked straight inside, passing through the foyer draped with beautiful carpets. I immediately noticed that the study door was ajar. Suppressed, irritable pacing could be heard from inside. I tiptoed closer. Useless, a bunch of useless trash. Leo's curses came from under the door. Wasn't it agreed that we'd lure everyone away? Why are the city gates sealed? What is that bastard Casey trying to do? There was no response from inside the door. He was probably talking to himself. My heart skipped a beat. Casey was right. Leo was indeed the problem. I composed myself, raised my hand, and knocked heavily on the door. The sounds inside stopped. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, and Leo appeared in the doorway. He looked to be in his early 30s, tall and handsome. But at this moment, his face was filled with panic and vigilance. When he saw it was me, his wariness instantly turned into a bewildered surprise mixed with disbelief. Luna, he was clearly surprised by my arrival. What do you need me for? Of course something's wrong. Following Casey's instructions, I adopted an accusatory stance. Leo, I am asking you, did you do what happened in the dungeon? Leo's face turned pale instantly. What are you talking about? How could I? That is absolutely slander. He denied it outright, but his eyes darted around. Slander? I sneered, pulled the parchment from my pocket, and waved it in front of him. Then tell me, why is your name first on Casey's suspect list? I deliberately emphasized the words, Casey's list of suspects. Leo's gaze was fixed on the parchment, his Adam's apple bobbing up and down. What? What is this? See for yourself. I shoved the parchment into his hand, then turned and paced irritably around the study, muttering to myself, that damned guard insists he heard your voice. Now that Casey has command, he's gone mad. He's not even chasing Kane. Instead, he's arresting people in the city to establish his authority. He's put a list of everyone close to Kane on it, saying he'll interrogate them one by one. This is utter nonsense. As I spoke, I kept glancing at Leo out of the corner of my eye. He unfolded the parchment. When he saw the 7 names on it, I could clearly see his hand holding the paper trembling slightly uncontrollably. His breathing became rapid, but he concealed it well, quickly regaining his composure and even managing to squeeze out a hint of anger and grievance. Outrageous. This is utterly outrageous. He slammed the parchment on the table. Just because I'm friends with Kane, he wants to arrest me. This is blatant revenge. Luna, you can't let him do this. It will destroy Silvermoon City. Of course I know, I continued, my voice filled with helplessness and frustration. But what can I do? He won't listen to anyone right now. I came to you to ask if you have any clues. Why did that guard frame you? Have you offended anyone? I acted like a naive woman who cared about her husband's future but was clueless about it. Leo looked at me, his eyes darting around. He remained silent for a long time, seemingly assessing the veracity of my words. Ultimately, the wariness in his eyes was gradually replaced by pity and calculation. He probably thought I was completely in the dark about Kaysen's intentions, and was a fool who could be used. Luna, thank you for believing me. His tone suddenly became sincere. This matter is indeed very strange. I need some time to think it over carefully, rest assured. I will never let Lord Casey suffer an injustice, nor will I let such villains succeed. Then you'd better hurry, I urged. Casey has already sent men to seal off the city gates. Next, they'll probably start arresting people one by one. I know, Leo replied repeatedly, then carefully pushed the parchment back in front of me. Luna, this list is too important. You must keep it safe and never let a third person see it. He actually returned the list to me. This move was completely unexpected. Isn't he afraid I'll leak the list to more people? Or does he have other plans? I gave him a deep look, took the parchment, and put it back in my pocket. I know, Leo, this is all I can do for you. I'll try my best to hold off Casey. As for you, take care of yourself. After I finished speaking, I didn't linger and turned to leave his study. As I stepped out of Leo's house and turned a corner, I immediately hid in the shadows, held my breath, and quietly looked back. Less than a minute, the tightly closed side door of the Leo family's house was quietly pushed open a crack. A thin figure dressed as a servant sneaked out from inside. He looked around warily, then quickly disappeared into the night along a secluded alley. He headed in the west of the city, and I remember very clearly that the second person on Casey's fake list, Barton, the squad leader of the city guard, lived in the west of the city. The fish has taken the bait. I gripped the cold silver whistle tightly in my hand, but didn't blow it immediately. Casey said to wait. Let them come out on their own. Now, the real show is just beginning. I followed silently, like a ghost in the night. Okay, as your personal online novel editor, I'd be happy to create an ending that fits the story's plot and meets the expectations of female readers, based on the wonderful opening you provided. Like a true predator, I moved silently through the familiar shadows of Silvermoon City. The servant was alert, but he was ultimately just a pawn delivering messages. His counter-surveillance skills seemed incredibly naive to someone like me who had died once and witnessed too many conspiracies. He eventually stopped in front of an abandoned brewery in the west of the city. He let out 3 long and 2 short bird calls, and soon the secret door of the brewery opened, and he slipped inside. I didn't move. Casey said to wait. I leaned against the cold wall, my mind racing through the names on the fake list. Barton, the squad leader of the guards, lived in the west of the city. Yes, this was it. If Leo's messenger was looking for Barton, then Casey's plan was halfway to success. But my heart was beating faster and faster, and a strong sense of unease gripped me. Everything went too smoothly. Everything seemed like a pre-written script. Leo's reactions and the messenger's route all fell perfectly into Casey's trap. But what about Kane? The man who tore me to pieces in my past life, proud to the core. Would he be content to be nothing more than a fugitive passively waiting for rescue? Would he place all his hopes on Leo and his rabble? Won't a terrible thought struck me like lightning. A feint. Leo created chaos in the city to draw the attention of Casey and all the guards. But this was just a smokescreen. Kane's real goal was not to escape Silvermoon City at all. He wants to take back everything he believes belongs to him. What is the symbol of power? Alpha's position. Who is the current Alpha Theron? Now that Casey has transferred most of the guards, Theron is more vulnerable than ever before. My blood instantly turned cold. Without further hesitation, I pulled the cold silver whistle from my pocket and blew it with all my might. A sharp whistle pierced the night sky. It wasn't a cry for help, it was a warning. Instead of waiting for the guards, I turned around, lifted my skirt, and ran frantically in the exact opposite direction from the brewery, to Alpha's council hall. When I rushed breathlessly to the lobby entrance, it was too late. 2 guards lay dead in pools of blood. The hall doors were wide open, and my father Theron's voice, choked with suppressed rage, could be heard from within. "You unfilial son, how dare you do this?" I rushed in, and the sight before me made my heart stop beating. In the center of the hall, Kane held a dagger to Theron's neck. A crazed, twisted pleasure clung to his face. Lena stood beside him, holding a steaming bowl of medicine, her face streaked with tears and fear, but a secret excitement lurked deep within her eyes. Around them stood several people I hadn't expected, elders who had always been hostile to Casey. So this was the real rebellion. "Father, I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine." Kane looked at me with a cruel smile. "Eve, my dear partner, you've come at the right time. Come here and tell them who you truly love." "Shut up," I shouted, taking steps toward him. "Kane, let go of Father. Release him?" Kane laughed. "And then you'll hand over Alpha's position to that bastard?" "Eve, you've disappointed me greatly. But it doesn't matter. After I kill my father and then Casey, you'll still be mine. I'll show you the consequences of betraying me." Just then, a series of neat and hurried footsteps came from outside the hall. "Casey is here." He was like a god of death returned from hell, exuding a chilling aura of killing intent, followed by 50 of his most elite guards. His gaze swept across the hall, and when he saw Theron being held hostage, his eyes showed no change. But when his gaze fell on me, I clearly saw a flicker of tension in his eyes. "Casey, you are finally here." Kane licked his lips, even more excited. "Guess who is faster, you or my knife? Let him go." Casey's voice was devoid of any warmth. "Fine," Kane grinned. "You and Eve cripple your own legs, kneel down and pledge allegiance to me. I'll consider sparing your life." The elders behind him echoed, "Casey, the situation is settled. There is no need for further futile resistance." I looked at Casey, whose hand was already on the hilt of his knife. I know he is waiting for an opportunity. I took a deep breath and suddenly gave Lena a sad smile. "Lena, I feel so sorry for you." Everyone was stunned. Lena's face stiffened. "You, what nonsense are you talking about? Do you think you can become Luna after Kane succeeds?" I shook my head, my tone full of pity. "He just said that I would always be his partner, and you, an accomplice who helped him kill his father and seize the throne, a plaything that can never see the light of day. How could he leave such a huge stain on you?" Lena's face turned pale instantly. A hint of malice flashed in Kane's eyes. Clearly, my words had struck a nerve with him. Now, in the instant when Lena was distracted, and Kane glanced at her, I suddenly hurled a heavy silver candlestick from the dressing table at him. Kane instinctively dodged to the side, and the hand pressing against Theron's neck loosened slightly. In a flash, Casey moved. He moved like a black lightning bolt, covering a distance of more than 10 steps in an instant. No one saw his movements clearly. There was only a crisp clang as the dagger in Kane's hand was knocked away. The next second, Casey's blade was already at Kane's neck. It is all over. The guards swarmed forward and pinned the traitorous elders to the ground. Lena screamed and collapsed to the ground. Meanwhile, Leo and his gang were captured and wiped out from the abandoned brewery by another squad of guards. At almost the same time, Casey won. He looked at his younger brother, whom he had subdued, with icy eyes. "Kill me," Cain roared. "Kill me if you dare. Killing you would be too easy for you." Casey's voice was eerily calm. He sheathed his knife and turned to Theron, saying, "Father, according to clan rules, a traitor who murders his father should be stripped of his wolf form, have his bloodline abolished, and be exiled for eternity. For a proud werewolf, being stripped of his wolf form is a punishment more cruel than death." Theron leaned wearily against the throne, looking at his once most beloved son, and finally slowly closed his eyes. "We'll do as you say." As the first rays of dawn shone into my room in Silvermoon City, the turmoil that had lasted all night finally came to an end. Casey became the undisputed new alpha of Silvermoon City. He didn't sleep. After dealing with all the traitors, he came straight to my room. He still carried a trace of blood, but mostly the crisp scent of pine. He walked up to me, looking at me silently. In his deep eyes, emotions surged, fear, relief, and a tenderness I had never seen before. "Your face." He reached out and gently touched the bruise on my cheek, which Cain had punched me in the face with his rough fingertips. The bruise hadn't completely faded yet. This time, I didn't hide. "It doesn't hurt anymore," I said softly. "I am sorry," he suddenly said. "I shouldn't have let you take that risk. But we won, didn't we?" I looked up and met his gaze. "You became alpha." "That's not the most important thing," he said, looking into my eyes and emphasizing each word. "The most important thing is that you're still here." My heart skipped a beat. "Casey," I mustered my courage and reached out to touch his cheek. "You said you wouldn't touch me until you truly trusted me." His body stiffened, and his eyes darkened. I smiled, tiptoed, and leaned in to plant a soft kiss on his lips. "Now, you have it." He shuddered, then suddenly pulled me into his arms. The kiss was no longer a gentle, tentative one, but filled with long-suppressed passion and the ecstatic joy of something lost and found. He pried open my teeth, conquering and taking over, as if trying to meld me into his very bones. He only released me slightly when I was almost unable to breathe. His forehead pressed against mine, his voice hoarse beyond words. "Eve, from the moment you called my name at your coming, of-age ceremony, my life has been yours." I wrapped my arms around his neck and found a sense of security I had never felt before in his embrace. Outside the window, the sun rises, its golden rays bathing the entire Silvermoon City, heralding the arrival of a new era. In this life, I chose Casey. This is the best decision I've ever made.